No, you are not in your flesh. Her dress is tight. Her dress is short. No, you are not in your flesh when some music is playing in the church and it lets you think, or your mind wanders and suddenly you're thinking about something ungodly. It's because the musician, the source of the music, sometimes it's carnality that's present, and that's what triggers you to think of certain things. What am I talking about? Let me explain. No, you're not in your flesh. Let me say one more thing. No, you're not in your flesh when you notice that man and a lustful thought pops in your mind and he's in the church. It is because sometimes that is a purpose in what that man has put on, and that triggers you. Now, let me go back to the beginning here. Am I saying to you that you should not have control of your own mind and have control and be able to rein in your thoughts? No, that's not what I'm saying. Am I saying it is their fault? No. Am I saying you are to blame this person and these individuals? No. Because regardless of whatever is presented to us, whatever comes before our eyes, we still have to realize that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. We have to understand that regardless of whatever is presented to us and how it's presented, no matter what temptation may come to us, we can still overcome. We can still look beyond what's in front of us, and we can get to a place where our flesh will not react. Okay? So, in that sense, through Christ and maturity and really aiming to say, God, I want to overcome in this area, you can get to a place where you're not going to be affected by what the enemy will bring before you. But with that said, we're not going to let them off the hook, because there are people who enter into the house of God, whether it is a organized church or home church or gathering, they come in and they adorn themselves for that purpose of grabbing your attention. You find a lot of praise teams. I don't know, depending on your church. It's some churches don't have praise teams, but where they get up front and they're singing, and you see that there is a worldly representation that's up there, and you will find that there are things that's being worn, tights and leggings and short skirts, hints of skin, transparent tops with a little top underneath, cleavage with maybe a necklace that sits right above to cover the cleavage while there's still flesh out, flashy toenails. I mean, guys, I may sound like an old biddy to some of you, but no, guys, you got to realize the subtle hints. There's a reason why they have that bright red and toenails and those black nail polish, and that the certain outfits, when certain clothes are designed to exude sexuality. That's why there's certain clothes that you can wear to the club and certain things you don't wear to the club. You're not going to wear a church outfit. You're not going to wear a business suit to the club unless you're going to one of those high-end clubs where, a corporate type setting and things of that nature. But normally a nightclub, there is an attire for it, because there's a purpose in it. And so where you have the praise team, the exotic praise team, these people that's before the people in a certain way, and wearing little those tutu skirts with the they may wear like capri tights and heels and strappy shoes. Guys, it is a distraction. So when you see that, and you see that brother that's up there, he's on the praise team, or he's a musician, and he's playing, and he has his little tight shirt on and all this stuff, and I don't know why people are wearing those broad rimmed baseball hats with that silver tag in the top of it. I am not bashing the style itself, but why that is allowed in the house of God is completely different.
No one takes their hat off anymore in the house of God?
Um, okay. So there's a sexiness that's being um, projected. And so you may look up and you're worshiping, and worship will make you vulnerable because you're just not in a place to really worship. Your hands are raised as surrender. And so if you've surrendered, you open your eyes and you look and you notice something, it is a natural thing for you to react and notice that person. Sometimes you may react in your body. Men, you can be trying to worship and you're in the church and you notice somebody and she has just just the way she presents herself, you will find your body reacting to her. Women, that can happen. And we're not going to cut them slack to say where they want to say you're in your flesh, because sometimes when you speak about these type of things in the house of God, they would try to flip it on you. No, 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 no. People are not necessarily in their flesh and coming in and they're out of control. No, it's what you have on. It's what these individuals have on. And so there must be ownership of that. You must understand why you reacted that way is because of what this person is wearing. Now, granted, I'm going to say again, there's some people, it doesn't matter if this woman was dressed like Aunt Maud. Because you have an issue in your flesh, you're going to look at everybody that way. You're going to look at every man with lust. There are women who just, that man is not paying her any attention. He's just minding his own business. And she's just lusting after him. She's reacting. And that's something that has to be worked out. That's something you have to face. And you have to say, I have an issue, and let the Lord deliver you from that. There are men who are that way. They just have no control over their flesh, and they're just, this woman is fully dressed, but just her shape alone, he's just having issues over that. And that's something that you have to take responsibility for and realize, hey, I've got this problem, and bring that to God. But the flip side is there are people who are not seeking out, they're not looking for any sort of, they don't have issues with lust, or that stuff has been put to bed. But when they enter into certain places, there's a lot to entice you. And so they'll flip it on you, come in their flesh, come in with their intentions, come in to get attention, walking in the house of God, dressing themselves with a deliberate goal in mind. And if you react to them, or if you say something, or if it's taught about, they're going to say you're in your flesh. But I want to encourage you and let you know that that's the power of, I'm sorry, that is a characteristic of Satan. I'm going to tell you why. If you think about it, whenever we sinned and we did things that was wrong, there will be an idea that's presented to us. A thought enters our mind to do something or to say something. And you may try to resist it, but you entertain the thought, right? So the thought comes, you take the bait, and once you carry out the sin, whatever you do, immediately after that, you feel crappy, because that's what Satan does. He presents something before you, and once you take the bait, he leaves you with guilt and tell you that you're the worst thing ever. Y'all know what I'm talking about because I've done it and I've experienced it plenty of times. So it is that same game, that same that's the nature of it's a demonic it's like reverse psychology. It is the nature of Satan to do that, to tempt you, to present something before you. And when you engage in thought or in action, now he withdraws, right? And leaves you feeling unclean and dirty, and something is wrong with you. So these individuals that come in wearing, bodycon.com outfits and wearing these provocative things and carrying themselves a certain way and being lustful and having certain mannerisms, these men or women, and then if you react, if you say something, or it's brought up, or there's correction made about it, they're going to say you're in your flesh and you shouldn't have. If you were spiritual, you wouldn't notice that. No, because I'm spiritual, I'm definitely going to notice that, because when you're spiritual and you're walking in the spirit, you're going to discern and you're going to be vigilant.
And oftentimes, when you speak of these things, you'll find that people will be offended and upset and they're sensitive. But how can you be sensitive to correction when you're comfortable walking around half dressed and very provocative in nature. It's simply offense to the word of God.
You're going to see everything around you, and you're going to know what it is before you. But again, that reverse psychology of it's you. No, that is a characteristic of the devil. Right. Now let's talk about music. Sometimes you're in the house of God or wherever you are, and you're listening to music and you listen to a worship song and it triggers something in you. Sometimes you think about something sexual while you're in church. Sometimes it reminds you of something. It makes you feel a certain way. And guys, sometimes it's because the people, the individuals that's on the instrument, they are living an unclean life. And that's why people need to stop hiring musicians, just a random musician. He plays at the club on the weekend and now he's playing in your church. Many churches do that. That man or that woman, whoever they are, if they live a carnal life and they are living a sinful life, a life of debauchery and doing what they want to do, when they begin to play, what is within them is being projected onto the people. So you may begin to think a certain way. Have you ever noticed how sometimes the musician may look like a shoehorn in the face, or she may look like a shoehorn in the face, okay? And I'm not being funny, but sometimes there's just people you wouldn't even look twice at them. But the more you're around them and the more they are, and some just look average, the more you're around them, the more they play, they start to look attractive. That is the power of music. Somebody just look normal, you wouldn't have noticed them, but they start to sing, and because of how they sing and the power and the passion with which they sing, you start to get attracted to them. That is why musicians and sometimes people within the praise team end up having affairs and sleeping with one another, because music has power. You will sleep with that man who the back of his neck looked like, that's all I'm gonna say. But you just gonna go, you find yourself messing with that man, messing with that woman that you never would because of music. All right. Now you add this darkness that they're putting in the church. That creates the same environment as it does in a club. Good music, good vibes, and it's kind of dark, and someone looks really attractive, okay, given the environment and how you're feeling and everything, right? And that's how people end up sometimes at the club. Thank God I've never done it. But you can find yourself, people having one night stands and stuff like that, or just doing some stuff, right? This guy look really cute, and then he just get out in the light and you realize that he looks like Uncle Ben. You're like, what was I thinking? Some of you go home with somebody because of how good they were looking, the drinks, the music, the vibe. You go home and you realize you brought home Miss Shirley. So that's the power of music. But let me get back to the church. So when you have people on your instruments and they're playing, because of what is inside of them through their music and the power of music, they can project those little imps on you, okay? Thoughts, you begin to think a certain way. You don't even know why you're suddenly noticing that musician. You're worshiping, and suddenly he's looking at you and you're looking at him, and he may give you that little smile like, hey, and keep playing. Or she might give you a look and you're trying to figure out what's going on. I'm standing right here next to my husband, or I'm right here with my wife. Why am I looking at that person? That's the power of music. And when it is coming from an unclean vessel, it is extremely dangerous, and it can affect your mind and how you think. Let me give you an example. In the Bible, it talks about how Satan, he was so beautiful and all that the Lord placed in him, and he had instruments built within him, pipes and all these different things. He was the ultimate worship angel. He was created to worship God. So when you see worship, it's very, you have to be so careful. These individuals that are worship leaders and singing before the people, it is important that they live a clean life. It's not that you're going to be perfect, but you shouldn't be trying to be imperfect so you can just OD on some grace and mercy. But these people, they live regular lives, like how they did before they got saved. Because what happens is they get before the people, and what's within them, they can project it on others. And even people that they're not carnal, they're holy, but that's warfare. Some things could just be projected off of through the music because of what's within. So as I said, Satan had all these things within him, these instruments and pipes and just all sorts of things came from within. So I want you to understand that us in our human flesh, when you are a musician, this musician, what he is doing, he's bringing what's within and expressing it on the keyboard. He's bringing what's within him and putting it out on the bass or the drums. He or she is bringing what's within her and singing it out, and it's projected out to the people. So if there's carnality, if there's sin, if there's lust, if there's debauchery, if the works of the flesh are just, this person lives a very ungodly life, what's within them is going to come out through the action of playing and music to open vessels, people who are surrendered with their hands raised up and eyes closed. And there you get your thought. There you get your reaction. There your thought will go somewhere. You have to bring it in right. Sometimes you have to rebuke that thought, or some people entertain it, especially those who are not strong enough to understand what's going on. Because what is within that man or that woman, let's say some man, he's a worship leader, there's certain things that he does outside of the ministry. There's a way that he lived, he's been somewhere before he came to the church. He just sprayed himself enough so he doesn't smell like weed and clean himself up, and left his girlfriend or boyfriend in the bed, whatever's going on. Or she did the same things, made sure she looked right. She came straight from the club, washed up real quick to get the smell of the smoke from the club off of her or whatever. Left her boyfriend or girlfriend in the bed, or just finished texting somebody else's husband, whatever it may be, and she could come in and do what she needs to do. But what's within cannot lie. So when they begin to open up their mouth, remember, death and life is in the power of the tongue. Death and life is also in the power of that song, regardless of the lyrics. The vessel that is coming from is what matters. Water is water, but if it's in a dirty cup, it's going to be a little bit different. Water is water. But if you pour it into something if you put fresh water into something that's filthy and give it to somebody to drink, the vessel contaminated what is supposed to be pure. So that's why sometimes you'll find yourself thinking certain things. It's not because, you're ungodly. You're in a place where there's debauchery and sin. You're in a place where there's people, your spirit man is opened up, and this person standing before you is sinful. So truly, a musician, their gifts of being able to play is a gift that God has given to them. But because they're in the natural form, the only way they can bring out what's within is through natural instrumentation. But perhaps, I believe, in our heavenly bodies, we're going to be able to do wonderful things. We can sing, and you may be able to hit high notes now as you sing, but when you're in your heavenly body, you'll be able to hit chords and sing songs you've never imagined, because you're no longer in the limitation of the flesh. I believe a person that plays a guitar or plays the piano, I believe those instrumentations, those sounds will come from within them. When they are no longer in the flesh, and they're standing in the presence of the Lord, they will be able to play chords and keys, things never heard of, from within them. They won't necessarily need an instrument because it's within them, because he made the devil that way. So therefore, those who have certain gifts of singing and playing, well, you can't, because we're in the flesh. All you can do now, you have to just a chord, a violin, a piano, a harp will have to suffice, because when you're in the flesh, what's within you cannot come out the way it would if you were walking in your spiritual body, you see. So therefore, what is within that man or that woman on those instruments playing, that stuff projects onto the people. So that is why it's important that you understand these things, that sometimes when these thoughts come, you're not condemning yourself all the time and, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Sometimes it's where you're at. There's carnality. There's carnality there. And the Lord will show you. You begin to discern. Take a look at who's standing on the pulpit, who's standing before the people. What do they have on? What are they saying? Their mannerisms. It's guys, you're just gonna know, you're just gonna see it. And so what you can pray for, especially if you're struggling in your flesh, is asking the Lord to help you, that you will not be moved by your natural impulses, that your flesh will be under control, that He will help you to keep your eyes straight, and that you will look forward, that ascent, that person that comes to do things. There are people that get before the people and they're trying to make eye contact with certain individuals. There are women that enter into the house of God or into a space where people are coming together to trap somebody, to get someone's attention. They will strategically figure out where they're going to sit. They'll get outfits. They'll dress themselves. They do certain things and put themselves in a place where they're in full view of somebody. And sometimes people will do that. Sometimes there's a person who's on the instrument and he is a man of God. He's holy. He loves the Lord. But somebody will come in and sit right where she knows that he's going to look at her, and she'll see him, and she comes dressed a certain way. And so it's important that we have our mind renewed. It's important that we have a prayer life and a fasting life outside of church. It's important that you're prayerful and you can discern these things, and you can be where you can say, Father, help my eyes, that I will not behold whatever is before me, Lord. It will not affect me. The wiles and the beguiling ways that someone will try to, the tactics that they'll try to bring to me, whether they're a man or a woman, Lord, let it not work on me, but that I'll keep my eyes fixed on you, that I'm walking in the Spirit, so I am not going to be affected by what may come before my eyes. And then you're also going to have the discernment to know where you're at and see where you are. You can go in and say, well, I'm going to keep my eyes stayed on the Lord all the time. But if you continue to go into the place, the Bible says, blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stand in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of the scornful. And so therefore, if you're sitting you're standing in the way of the ungodly, and you're sitting in the seat of the scornful, how are they scornful? They scorn God through their attire, their behavior, through their lifestyle. Scorning Him is, I'm going to do what I want to do. You got to understand me, God, not me understand you. And so then they have the boldness, after they have lived this, done these things, they can come before the Lord scorning Him, like, oh yeah, I'm here, I'm doing what I want to do. They may not say that, but that is basically their actions. So sometimes God will show you, this is not where you're supposed to be. And other times you're there for that time, but God will have it where your eyes are fixed on Him, and you're not going to just respond, and you're not going to just react. If you have issues with your flesh, you'll be able to pray and say, God, help me to get this under control, that I am not going to be just triggered by my lust and my impulses, and by smooth skin and a pretty face and a nice athletic body or a handsome face or a musician. Because sometimes there are people that enter into the house of God and they're just groupies. You know, groupies, they go to the game and they go to these different things, and they're going to try to get with the athletes. They're people, they go to concerts and they're trying to get backstage passes so they can go to the hotel with the athletes and go to the hotel with the performers. So there are groupies that enter into the house of God simply to do that, to bring people out. And sometimes groupies is right up there ministering. And so you just have to have the eye and the discernment to see what's before you. But most importantly, you have to understand, no, you're not in your flesh. She's half naked. No, you're not in your flesh. He is dressed seductively. He's dressed in a way to draw your attention. No, you're not crazy. You thought the way that you did because of the person that's on the instruments, the individuals. Sometimes it's a combination of the drummer, the person on the keyboards, the individuals that are singing, and sometimes it's the head, the pastor, all of them up there doing the most. And so that stuff is just trying to find where they can go, that lust, that stuff that they project onto you. But I want you to know that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Greater is he that's in us than he that is in the world. And you've got to be able to be real with yourself and know what your weaknesses are. Be real with what you just experienced. And at the same time, you must have enough wisdom to know, this is not me. I'm looking at what's before me and see what's there. And then now you seek God and say, Father, what do I do? What do I need to do? Change your actions. The Bible says, go not down the way of the strange woman. Don't go down that road. And sometimes she's going to come and seek you out. He's going to come and seek you out. The crooked man who left the righteous path will come and seek you out. But when you have the Spirit of God within you, he's going to just form a hedge around you, and they're not going to be able to approach you and come to you and try to deposit things and try to pull you out of the way. And you're going to be able to discern and know, wheels up, it's time to go. So guys, I just want to talk to you about that. I hope this encourages someone and helps you to understand why you may experience certain things that you do, and why you may have some of the thoughts that you do, and why some things will pop in your mind. That's why you must understand the importance of your relationship with God, keeping yourself guarded on every side, and discerning what is before you, and being mindful of where you set your feet and where you bring your family. All right, guys. Peace.